And let's now speak to the man who said that Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane is a hired gun for politicians, repeating that again today. Mapaile was speaking at a joint rally of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation and the SACP, the Hands Off Our Democracy campaign against state capture. And he joins us in studio now. Thank you for being with us, Solly.
Thank you very much.
What's your response firstly to what the President has just said?
Yeah, firstly, let me clarify this point that I say she should not allow herself to be the hired gun of the fight back. Okay. That's very important to put it that way.
So are you saying that you're not actually suggesting she is a hired gun?
Perceptions abound in that regard, but that's why we felt that the best way to look into that is whether she's fit to hold that particular office. Hence, we called for public inquiry by Parliament to make that determination.
The President saying he'll take her report on judicial review. Do you welcome that?
We welcome that. We think it's the correct position that he has taken. I think there's no doubt about the fact that there's destabilization going on in the country, and that state institutions, including Chapter 9 institutions, are not institutions rooted outside of this country. They are located in our existing conditions, and therefore the manner in which things are being done, particularly from that particular office, worries us. But we are happy that the President is taking this matter under review.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Mapaile. Please stay with us. But we have on the line spokesperson for the ANC, Pule Mabe. Pule, can we get the ANC's reaction to the President's announcement tonight?
Evening, Soli, and evening to your viewers.
Thank you,
we have already issued a statement yesterday which was consistent with what the President spoke of today. One, that the President would, of course, in the normal course, consider a number of options, one option being that of a judicial review, which he has already pronounced on. You'll also have noticed that from the statement of the President has echoed the sentiment that we have echoed in the past, that we do respect Chapter 9 institutions. Of course, where there are areas that would have to be ventilated further through other legal avenues, it is the right of individuals whom the public protector shall have pronounced on to do so. This is to enforce the principle of fairness, but also you'd understand that one of the things that we in the ANC, including in the broader alliance, assist with is to make sure that we stabilize our economy, we isolate all of the issues that will distract us from ultimately consolidating and building the South Africa we want.
All right. If this goes to judicial review, Pule, and it is overturned, we know that the Public Protector previous reports, I think in the last year, 2 reports have been overturned at least. The Steena Dairy Farm, the one relating to the Reserve Bank as well. If this one is overturned, will the ANC then support attempts to remove her from office?
Well, I wouldn't want us to be preemptive at this stage because that would be unfair. Safe to say that let us allow the process. Let's allow the President of the ANC, who's also the President of the Republic, to exercise his right in the normal course. He has already gone out and taken the nation into confidence. Now, the act displayed by our President today is one of transparency, is one of accountability, is one of being a responsible leader. This is consistent with what we have said. When we went to our Lekgotla this year, together with all of our alliance partners, we said that we're going to work towards building a capable ethical state. Now, ethical leadership, one of the tenets of ethical leadership is to be able to be transparent, to account, to act in a responsible manner. As matters stand now, we'll have to allow the processes that the President has announced that is going to be undertaking to flow through. Once those avenues have been exhausted and there's a decision out to the public, we in the ANC will be able to pronounce ourselves at that point.
All right. Finally, Pule, what's come up is the enormous amount of funding needed for an ANC presidential campaign. And the president did say that will be discussed, maybe transparency around that. Of course, there's an issue here whether the public protector can even look into those funds because they're not public funds. When will that be discussed? What's going to happen there?
I'm going to be unfair on you here because the agenda of the ANC, as it relates to when it attends to issues, even those that are of public interest, is effectively determined by the ANC itself. Should the ANC arrive at a determination that it needs to file a commentary on this later on after its own NEC, NWC, or any other meeting that will have happened in the intervening period looking at these issues, the ANC shall effectively do so.
Pule, final question I want to throw in. Will you stand by the president here, one of the international journalists raising the issue that there is factionalism, that there is perceptions of a fight back within the party? Is the party as a whole going to stand behind the president?
Well, we in the ANC, yesterday, the statement we issued, even in the past, we have expressed confidence in our president, including in all the entirety of the leadership collective as elected at the 54th National Conference. We believe that President Ramaphosa has got the necessary ability to root out our country of corruption, of poverty, of underdevelopment, and of ultimately commandeering efforts of building the South Africa we want. So we stand by the president because the president has got a duty to implement the manifesto, which is now a compact between ourselves and the people of South Africa. For him to be able to do that work, he needs the full confidence of the organization he leads.
All right, thank you very much. That was ANC National Spokesperson Pule Mabe. And let's return to the SACP's Solly Mapaile with us in studio. Strong words again for the public protector earlier today. And Mr. Mapaile, you're saying that this is a perception that she's a hired gun for politicians. Surely you are enforcing that perception. You raised it again today. Haven't you been asked to retract that statement?
Yes, she has asked me to retract that in a most arrogant way without consulting us to understand what we said. We responded to say there will be no such apology. She had indicated that she will take legal action. We're looking forward to that so that we can clarify this matter once and for all. And we have presented with papers in that regard.
Do you want her out of office now?
Obviously, I don't think she's capable, but the relevant forum to come to that conclusion will be Parliament through its own inquiry. But from where we stand, we think we shouldn't even wait for too long. Actually, she has demonstrated incapacity. If you read the first report you mentioned, the one on the Reserve Bank, the court said she couldn't act without impartiality. That is, she was impartial. And the fact that she was disingenuous, that she acted unlawfully, that she acted unconstitutionally. These were some of the findings by the court of law. I mean, quite soon after that, she should have been really be under scrutiny because of that kind of harsh ruling by the court.
Will you ask your alliance partner, the ANC, who is in Parliament, the majority in Parliament, to push for that, especially if this is overturned on judicial review?
No, we'll do it if we'll also explore other methods, including a private members' initiative in Parliament, where we do have members of the Communist Party in Parliament. Of course, they are there under the pen of the ANC. Indeed. But if the ANC will dilly-dally on this, we'd have to ask one of them to initiate a process.
We need a strong public protector as a democracy.
Most certainly, yeah.
And the president was trying to deal with this. If you undercut her now, is there a danger, or is there not a danger, that the office of the public protector could be undermined in future? How do you deal with that balance? Well,
we have always expressed that point ourselves, that ideally this is a very critical position and we want to strengthen it. But it's also upon the incumbents in this office to make sure that they build the credibility of that office. They enhance its authority in society and its respect and integrity. And we think that has been waning of recent time, given recent rulings. that have been subjected to quick reviews because of lack of application of the law proper. And I think that you could actually write a thesis on the failure, particularly of the incumbent, with regard to a lot of things that in the recent rulings, court judgments, and the fact that quite clearly outside perception could look into the fact that there are individuals that by hook or crook, in fact, we said it openly that she was determined to find adverse negative findings against Pravin Gordhan and any other person, and we also knew that she will find adverse ruling against the president because she doesn't care whether you present a document. For instance, the last ruling before the inauguration of the president on Pravin Gordhan, for instance, he had 2 days before presented his documents when legally, really, if you are applying your mind, would we have, unless it was a fait accompli, the report was there. That's why even this ruling on the president, we said we were not surprised. We were not expecting it to rule otherwise.
I'm glad you've brought up Pravin Gordhan because he was a central theme again during the Hands Off Our Democracy campaign today. You had very strong words against the Public Protector and the EFF. Starting with your support of Pravin Gordhan, are you not worried it's premature because his case, after her adverse finding, has to again go through the courts? So do you not want to wait for that process to clarify his actual legal stance?
It's not much about that. It's also looking at his credibility, his track record, his integrity, and how he has handled himself on this kind of matters and how he's been handled. You remember that this question of Pravin Gordhan starts with the Hawks. We fought against Bemin Tlemeza, General Bemin Tlemeza at the time, who put a number of questions on PG regarding what they termed the rogue unit at SAS, which was actually the high-risk investigation unit. And I take away that high risk because it's very critical, the caliber of individuals who conducted that particular work. We defeated Ntlemeza in this regard. We actually even mobilized for him to be removed from office. We also, the NPA under Sean Abrams withdrew this case against Pravin. So we now see the same case that was withdrawn by the NPA when it was supposed to go to court. In fact, on the day of the hearing of the court, we were on our way to Pretoria, the court case, when they indicate that they are withdrawing this. Now the same case is coming back, but through a different office, the Public Protector. And it's been used literally to target this particular one person. That is why Comrade PG became the symbol of the campaign that we launched. But the campaign is beyond PG. It's for all people who have been victimized, for fighting corruption, for fighting state capture, and also to attack those who are now embarking on a fight back campaign in order to make sure that we don't succeed in the fight against corruption.
So this has pitted you against the EFF because they tried to stop Pravin Gordhan from even speaking in Parliament recently. What is your response to them saying they'll meet you on the streets?
We have exposed today the real constitutional delinquent that PG is not, but the EFF is. We have also highlighted how they've benefited, for instance, from some of the networks of corruption, including on Mazoti, and including the fact that recently the court, through Judge Mayer, found that that unit was established legally. In fact, on the contrary, people should be apologizing for what they've said against PG in this regard. But like I said, it was just a symbol that represented those who were in the forefront, given his position in government as Minister of Public Enterprise, because we want to sort out corruption in that in those state-owned enterprises, which also have funded political parties, and we want that to be dealt with so that those state-owned entities become the developmental agencies of our country and deal with underdevelopment and poverty, not to feed pockets of individuals. Including those of the EFF and Julius Malema. Okay,
so you and the EFF are at odds over the Public Protector, over Pravin Gordhan as well, and I'm sure that what you said today may escalate the issue because you basically said that Julius Malema was a thief. Tell us more.
What I was exposing was what there's a general amnesia about in public regarding the on-point the on-point program, which was investigated by the public protector, Advocate Thulima Madonsela, and she found fraud, corruption, and so forth in her findings. And he was the sole beneficiary of the Ratanan Trust at the time. So we're trying to indicate that the actual people who have been stealing from the public that also collapsed that the provincial government of Limpopo, leading to national government to intervene to rescue the government. One of them was On Point, a group led by him through his trust, who was the sole beneficiary of that trust.
One more question, and then we're going to speak to an analyst to get some more analysis about what the president's decision means. On this, so you called Julius Malema a constitutional delinquent.
The real one. Yeah,
the real
not
one.
PG, yeah.
He hasn't been found guilty in a court of law. You're speaking of him as a corrupt thief. Why hasn't he been found guilty?
By the public protector. It's on the public protector's report, On Point of Tenders. The report is titled On Point of Tenders.
Yeah, this is the predecessor to Thulima Madonsela.
Yes, that's the report that found him to have been involved in corruption and fraud and maladministration.
Why hasn't he been brought to a court of law?
He was brought to the court of law, as you remember, and our suspicion, and that's why we've put it on the statement, that part of these security networks that have colluded with corruption also in SARS and other areas. We could mention few individuals, for instance, that are also linked with whether it's Glenna Gliotti, whether it's Mazotti, and all of that, and their interrelationship, including their relationship with Mr. Malema. So we're exposing all that particular network, which led to his case not being finalized in a court of law. But from a point of view of the public protector's report, he was found on the wrong side of the law.
All right, Solly Mapayila from the SACP. Please stay with us in case we can come back to you. But thank you for that response. And on the line, we're joined by Levi Ndau, a political analyst. He's with us from Polokwane. Levi, tell us what you think just off the bat after the president's statement tonight.
Good evening to you, Francis. Good evening to Solly, and indeed, good evening to all the viewers at home. What I've observed is that you have President Ramaphosa, who is indeed not happy or impressed with the findings of the public protector. And what he has actually decided to do has been to take the report for judicial review. The question would be, does he have sufficient ground to stand on? That is something that one wouldn't know at this stage. But as you listen to the articulation by the public protector and what the president is actually saying, he seemed to be arguing that the public protector seemed to have overstepped her mandate and went beyond the actual mandate. And he also brings a legal argument to say that in terms of the law and procedurally, the public protector did not do well. And all we need to do now is to wait for the judicial review in order to actually come with its own findings.
Do you think we were talking to the SACP about this balance of respecting the office of the public protector while saying her report is fundamentally and irrevocably flawed? Is he getting that balance right?
I think, Francis, it depends on where one stands. The SACP has always been the staunch supporter of President Ramaphosa. And indeed, they might find it difficult to find any form of wrongdoing on his part on the basis of where they stand and the natural biasness because of the relationship that they have with the president. But I think for me what is important is to establish whether indeed the public protector has not acted fairly on President Ramaphosa, or if the public protector has actually erred in terms of her conducting investigations and the findings. And that indeed is what the courts will actually then decide. But what is also important for me is that President Ramaphosa is trying his best to utilize available state institutions to come as the arbitrators, so that it must actually be seen that he respects all the institutions that have been established by our democracy. Would this then be seen as a bad strategy or as a bad strategy for President Ramaphosa? It actually depends. One would say, if you look at the remedial actions, is it something that has been too harsh on the president or not? And for me, I think in terms of the remedial actions, the president can easily deal with the remedial actions as proposed by the public protector. And I think what is becoming the most serious factor for the president is that the finding says he has actually violated his oath of office. And for me, I think that is what the president is taking seriously. And for me as well, that is very, very serious. And I think that is where the president is actually getting more and more worried about.
Well, his spokesperson, Kusela Diko, at the end saying that the president has taken South Africa into his confidence. Do you think he did do that tonight? Did he do it well, remembering that there's a reputational battle going on here as well?
Well, indeed, for me, the president only told us that he still respects the Chapter 9 institutions. He is still going to continue doing his work, and is actually taking the matter for judicial review. You would know and agree with me that on matters that are still in the hands of the court, most people will say this matter remains sub judice. And I think he did not provide sufficient information that will actually convince an ordinary person who is just listening. Because for obvious reasons, that the matter is between the court. It's before the court, rather. But for me, if one is not happy with the findings of the public protector or other processes in South Africa, there is nothing illegal that the president has done. That will be the right way to do, especially when he is actually not impressed or happy with what the public protector has actually done.
Levi, should sub judice even come into this? I mean, we have judges, we don't have juries like in America. They're not meant to be swayed. So you actually have a lot of scope, politicians do, to talk about the merits of the case. Should he have spoken about the merits here? Her claims that he deliberately misled Parliament. Some of the lawyers are saying there's a contradiction there. Did he deliberately mislead? Did he not have the facts? Was he acting in good faith, like she says? Should he not have dealt with things like that?
Well, I think that is an area where a lot of people are raising concerns. Remember, the president provided an answer in Parliament, and after realizing that there was some information missing, the very same president wrote quickly to the Speaker of the National Assembly to say there was a problem whilst I was responding, and these are the actual facts. Now, some people are arguing that is the public protector only punishing the president on something that is actually retracted already, or is it something else? But it's still a matter that will still require the judicial review to then take a decision on. But another aspect will be how do you then come to a conclusion that one is actually deliberately misled Parliament? And for me, when you deliberately mislead Parliament or mislead a human being, it's when you've actually sat down and planned that today, whether they ask me or not, this is what I'm actually going to say. But people see things differently. And I think it will be important for those that are arguing on behalf of the president to be able to provide sufficient reasons why they are convinced that the president did not mislead Parliament in its response. And I think also, obviously, those that will be representing the public protector would also demonstrate why they actually said the president took a deliberate decision to mislead Parliament.
If the public protector's report is overturned, we've seen other reports being overturned, at least two important ones in the past year. Can she survive?
Well, it will depend. There are people already that are very much vocal in support of the public protector. And they might be having their own reasons why they are very much vocal in support of the public protector. But if indeed their decision is then overturned, it will have an impact, firstly, in the office of the public protector, and secondly, on the public protector now as an individual. Remember, if you occupy this important institution of government, which is supposed to act in the interest of everybody, and now your decisions are being overturned, the way they are being overturned, it has an impact on you as an individual heading the institution, and also an impact on the institution. And I wouldn't see the public protector surviving if indeed the review of the president could actually succeed.
All right, Levi Ndau, our political analyst from Polokwane. And let's come back to the SACP's Deputy Secretary General Solima Paile, because Mr. Ndau made a statement there. He said that the SACP supports the president no matter what. That's on the basis of your relationship with the president. Is this about principles or a good relationship?
It's about principles. Obviously, when we came out, the president, the issue on the president was not on the table initially. When we confronted the public protector, I think it can be fair to us. But in that regard...
You mean because you were first supporting Pravin Gordhan against the public protector?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
We came out quite clearly about that. Yeah, but that's okay. I agree with his general assessment. And of course, including his own aversion and criticism on us. There's no problem with that.
There is an issue that I think has been raised by your party. What happens now, because there's this remedial action, including the role of Parliament. I think another member of your party was saying that Parliament actually can't. The Ethics Committee doesn't have oversight over the President. Do you know what should happen now regarding that remedial action?
Well, that's what I think the president is seeking the court to determine, so that they clarify that particular space. So, but in terms of the rules that are there, we do know that all members of the executive are accountable to Parliament through the ethics committee. And I think it should also be raised at some point in Parliament regarding this finding, but I think post the remedial action that the President has taken.
Coming back to what you said today, so we were talking about the Hands Off Democracy campaign, your support for Pravin Gordhan, and you said something interesting, that he's being chased by a pack of dogs. Does that suggest that the public protector and the EFF, his other critics, are actively working together, that there's some sort of coordinated campaign?
No, not necessarily. It's an analogy that we're trying to show that for quite some time, he has been the sole one being chased. When all of us were taking refuge somewhere, because we're not in the front line of the fight against corruption. So he was seen as the only one coming out there. You'll also remember that, let's say, for instance, for the EFF, when he went to the State Capture Commission, the Zondo Commission, there was massive mobilization against him on his appearance. So, and going on a lot of stories, even lies that were peddled and so forth. He countered some of the lies. Even ourselves, there are many lies that are peddled against us all the time. Once we raise issues, completely untruth. So it was the same thing. And we felt that if we allow a Minister of State or any other public servant that cannot do their job because they are afraid, then we'll kiss goodbye to our democracy. Only those who are supported by the rogue elements, who can intimidate people, will succeed and be the only ones who can be listened to. Yeah. So that's why we came out in his defense. And of course, like we said, in defense of all others who are fighting corruption and state capture.
You said that the public protector shouldn't be a hired gun earlier. You said you're not saying she necessarily is, but there is a suggestion there. You've just said Pravin Gordhan has been targeted. Do you believe in any way the president has been targeted by the public protector or her office?
What we think is happening is that all those who are at the forefront of the fight against corruption are being targeted, including the president. For instance, you remember that it's quite clear this is not an easy job. He has established various commissions, and in some instances, he could have taken decisions. But to be fair, he set up the commission so that a conclusive process of investigation could arise, and he will use that to take decisions. But he made very important interventions, cleaning the NPA, the intelligence services, SAS, ESCOM, and other important areas, the PIC. So all those efforts are critical efforts. Now, the beneficiaries, as Joel Nechitende once said, that the beneficiaries of corruption and state capture will not go out without a fight.
Yeah.
So they realize that with all what the president has
But then is the public protector working with the beneficiaries of state capture? Is she working with one faction that's against the fight back?
Well, our view is that that's what the public can actually determine based on her actions. But the most important thing is that we think that in the manner that she brings issues on the table is to try and sometimes discredit individual rather than go to the essence of the problem. For instance, on the matter regarding Pravin Gordhan, we could see that there's a persistency to deal with the person, of course, using the office. So that's why we're saying that she must undergo a scrutiny of whether she's relevant to lead that particular office through a parliamentary inquiry.
And if Julius Malema, the EFF leader, is the real constitutional delinquent, as you said today, is he being protected by the public protector?
Well, what we're just pointing out is that the previous public protector made a ruling against an on-point company, which was a company owned by a Ratanan Trust, for which Julius Malema was the sole owner. And that ruling indicated that there was fraud, there was corruption in that process regarding those tenders in Limpopo. That's the main point that we're indicating.
All right. Thank you for being with us. Please stay with us for